What's up, YouTube? KidMoto22 here, coming to you today with a early review of my new bars. I have upgraded my handlebars to Lucky Dave's bars. These are the Lucky 13s. So the Lucky 13 bars are a T-bar style bar. They have a 13-inch rise, and that's not because of the name. They make the Lucky 13s in, I think, 11-inch rise, 13-inch rise, and 15-inch rise. I went with the 13-inch rise because I thought that would be the most comfortable for me, just in terms of bar position. And I think I was really good in choosing the bars that are the right height and a bar position for me. So these have 13-inch rise. They have, I believe, about 1.5 to 2 inches of pullback, and they are 26 inches wide. And the 26 inches wide is essentially, you know, from here to here, and that is considerably less than, I believe the stock bars are 32 inches wide. I want to say 32 to 34 inches wide is where the stock bars are. So I can tell you that if you watched my 5 things I hate about my Road King, I talked specifically about the bars. And so there's 2 things about the bars, the old bars, I didn't like. I didn't like the width of the bars. So the width of the bars put my hands, you know, quite a bit further out. And it also, in addition to being further out, there was some weird wrist angle that kind of tipped my wrist kind of facing out a little bit, which was not a real comfortable wrist angle to ride in, to be honest. And so I was always interested in these club style bars, and so that's kind of what you get with T-bars, is kind of a club style. And the thing that I have come to really like about it is the width of the bars, being what they are, make the bike much more easy to maneuver and move around. You know, you always hear people talk about that term flickable, and what they mean is how easy it is to move your bike, you know, kind of back and forth. And having the bars be much more narrow really changes how easy it is to maneuver the bike. I was absolutely astonished at how easy the bike is to move from side to side, and that's because the bars are so much more narrow. It narrows the look of the front end quite a bit too. And so when you look at the bike from the front, and you kind of see that it's a much more narrow stance on the front end of the bike, and I really like that look a lot. That also goes to the wrist position too. So rather than my wrist being turned out, they're much more straightforward and just a little bit below my shoulders. So where the other bars did have a 12-inch rise, they were still quite a bit lower than my shoulders because of the shape of the bar. And that, having these follow the position, first of all, right off of the fork, and so the angle, they match the angle of the fork perfectly, and then they have the pullback on them, and that pullback essentially brings the bars closer to you without changing how the bars are tipped. So on my other bike, I like how when bars are lined up with the forks, and with the other bars, they were not lined up. If you look at the stock configuration of those bars, they're actually tipped more toward you. And so I had the bars lined up with the fork because I like the look better, and ultimately at the end of the day, they're not very comfortable. The thickness of the bar matches the bike well, and these are the same thickness in terms of diameter. I think they would call them 1.5-inch bars. So the diameter is the same, but in terms of how they feel when they're positioned stock coming off the line, they're just not in a comfortable position at all. And so I waited a while. I obviously did quite a few other mods to my bike before I changed the bars. The bars are quite a bit more of a daunting task, and I wish I would have done it sooner. I think that this really has changed. My love for this bike is even greater now with these bars on here. It has made it a much more comfortable ride for me. It's certainly aesthetically the style that I like with the Road Warrior fairing and these types of bars. It was definitely the style that I've been going for on this bike. So aesthetically, it's much more pleasing to me. But in terms of functionality, these are the bars this bike should have come with. I mean, it is a way easier bike to handle now. It is a much more comfortable ride, much more upright riding position. And I can't say enough good things about the bars themselves. Now, I've said all the good things. Now the bad things. There's nothing bad about these bars in terms of style and functionality at all. And in terms of install is actually pretty straightforward for what you need to do with bars. You do need to change the grommets that are inside, because they're the rubber ones that are underneath the triple trees. You have to change those out to a polyurethane. Otherwise the bars aren't going to be solid in how they're mounted. So I changed those out. You have to get a new plate for where they come out of the triple trees, because the other one is not designed right for bars that go straight down. So there was a couple other parts you needed to buy. But going with the 13-inch bars, there's plenty of wire for the brake and clutch. They did not have to be switched out, replaced, or even disconnected. And there's plenty of wire in terms of the hand controls, right and left hand controls, that none of that needed to be replaced or changed out. Now they do have to be run through the bars, and that's not an easy task. I tried it a couple times. I could not do it, and so I brought my bars to a local shop. They ran the wires for me, and I depinned and repinned everything and got it all connected. Now for the bad news. It's all connected, it's back together, and I have a check engine light on and another light on. I've used my FP3 and cleared out the codes a couple times, and I'm having problems with my left hand control. So at the end of the day, I'm going to have to take it back in and have it looked at. I don't know what it is. Everything is wired and connected correctly, so it's either a ground that's not ground right, or there is something wrong with the wiring and they're going to have to replace some of the connectors. I don't know what it is, and it's beyond my skill set, so I am going to have to still take it in to get that fixed. But in terms of the install, I feel, besides the wiring, I could do this install fairly quickly after doing it one time. I had never done a bar install before. I didn't find mechanically that the bar install was all that difficult. It was actually very straightforward. The assembly and disassembly was pretty quick. All of the wiring is essentially in the light nacelle, so you take the light off and you have access to all the wiring inside there. If you take a lot of pictures with your phone or your camera, you should know how to connect everything back up, which I did, and I didn't have any problem with that. Wow, that is a really nice car. So in terms of that part of it, had I not thrown error codes and gotten, you know, some of those issues, I would have been able to do the bar install, you know, fairly easily. So if you're out there wondering whether a bar install is something that you can do, I say go for it. But you know, I did have some complications with mine, and again, I would say that those complications were not with the actual mechanical portion of the bar install. That part was pretty straightforward. I assembled everything and disassembled it and reassembled it pretty much the way that it came apart, and it wasn't really all that difficult. So I guess my my first impressions of the bar are these bars are fantastic. I would highly recommend these bars. Again, these are the Lucky Dave's Lucky 13s. Lucky Dave's makes another T-bar that doesn't have the pullback in it, so it's essentially a little bit further forward and straight across. And I am very, very happy that I went with the pullback, because it brings the bars closer to me and allows me to sit much more upright, which is a much more comfortable position and will be more comfortable for longer trips. So I think what I'll do, this is kind of my first impression of the bar. I'll do another video at 1,000 miles and give you a 1,000-mile impression and kind of what it's been like when I've been riding on them for a while. Hopefully by then I'll have the electrical all kind of squared away, and I'll give you an end of season review, because I will be going to the Midwest Moto Meetup in September, and that trip alone is going to be, I think, approximately 2,500 miles after the ride that we do there. And so I'll probably end the season right around what I did last year in terms of my mileage. So I'll probably be right around that 5,000 to 6,000 miles on for this season, and I'll have a really good idea of what these bars have been like throughout the course of the whole season, since essentially I only really rode maybe 4 or 5 times the beginning of this season with my old bars before I replaced them. So that's my first impressions video. I love these bars, highly recommend them. I think they're great bars. Obviously they're going to be great on a number of bikes, but as far as being good on a Road King Special, I say these bars are amazing. So that's about all I have for today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and you like the content I'm putting out, hit the subscribe button. It's going to be here or here. Other than that, I don't have much more for you on these bars. Lucky Dave's Lucky 13s. They're great. This is Kid Moto. I'm out.